welcome back to another edition of Clubtest Debrief, where our writers and editors thoroughly vet the latest gear on the golf course, on the range, and then offer their takes on what they thought about it. Maybe offer a few standout products. Today, we're going to get into the new PXG Black Ops with RB. How was testing it at Scottsdale National?
I was there for about half a day and got to go through all the new product, go through the presentation for it, and then obviously get fit for it. And, you know, they got something with these things. I don't say that like they didn't have something with the last one, but, you know, we've talked about factors that play into what causes like viable improvement. And one of those things is face material. And they've got a new face material for their drivers and fairways that, for me, based on also what they've done with shaping and creating these different profiles of drivers, they got some speed. And when it comes to the model, which I was fit into, they've definitely found a formula for very low spin, which for me is a big win.
You know, PXG is an interesting brand because if you think about where they started, when they very first came out, they were by far the most expensive golf club company on the market. And I think that was a little bit of the allure. You thought for that much money, you must be getting something incredible. And they had a lot of really incredible products, a lot of game-changing products that we now see some of that tech starting to seep into other manufacturers. But it's interesting. They've now since gone to a much more, I would say, budget-friendly model. And I think some golfers out there probably see the price and they think, man, that seems crazy low for a company that was once at the top end of the price point. You mentioned like the face materials. These aren't, you know, while the prices have gone down exponentially, the performance of these is right in line with a lot of the other products that I know that you and I have both tested.
Yeah, and I think the way that they've done it as well is like they've segmented, obviously we're talking about the new product, but the way they've kind of let older models live a little longer, allowing people to get value into the brand, which is something that they've achieved really well. As far as the new stuff is concerned, I think the biggest development for them is really looking at the way that these drivers are designed to fit different profiles of players. I tried the Black Ops, like kind of what you would call the core, the standard model, and it was really good because it's a very large head. It's very, very forgiving. I know the 10K number gets thrown out a lot right now for MOI, and it gets there with a certain weight configuration that is not stock that for them. So it's very, very close to that already. And then change a weight configuration, and you get to that point pretty easily, actually. But for the tour driver, it's really not designed for that. It is designed for premium, low spin, and someone who is on the faster end, someone who might just need spin reduction overall to help gain distance. It is the lowest spinning driver that they've ever created. And it was kind of one of the reasons why they wanted to offer both models. There was the one that kind of fits a lot more players. And then there is the Tour One, which is, you know, I don't say Tour One as in that's the actual model, is the Tour number one. And what that allowed them to do is really segment the two drivers. And then with weight configurations and all that stuff, they can kind of bring them closer together and find that middle ground for other players. For me, on the high end of someone who tends to spin the golf ball too much, not on necessarily, you know, tour level club at speed, but just as far as spin creation, which I'm always trying to eliminate, the Tour One for me worked so well. It was actually extremely impressive to see the numbers off of that driver and to get not just ball speed, which is obviously like kind of right in the wheelhouse of what I would expect to see kind of on the highest level of what I would achieve, but also where the spin sat. To like find something that spins around like 2,500 for me is like a huge win, especially when this is the big one we always talk about, playing a cut. You know, like you can do that with a draw and, you know, kind of find one that falls out of the sky. But when you're playing a cut and you can find that flat ball flight, A+ for me.
Yeah. Would you say compared to your gamer driver, that was probably the biggest improvement that you saw when you were testing the new Black Ops?
Yeah, I would say there's probably a couple hundred RPM of difference, especially in that cut shot. You know, for me, without getting into too much specifics, if I want to hit a really low spin shot, I kind of basically hit a straight pull. I aim a little right and just pull it, and it doesn't really draw too much. But to actually hit a fade that doesn't overspin or doesn't kind of spin a little too much, I kind of accept that in my golf game in general. I'm like, okay, I'm going to spin it, you know, probably closer to 2,900, but I'm going to find a lot of fairways and be very happy with that. But to be able to essentially make the same golf swing and find something that launches at basically the same height but spins less for me is a huge win. And I've played PXG drivers in the past, and I've always had to go to their lowest loft setting to find that low spin window. And with the black, I actually just played it one click lower at 9 degrees, which when my fitter Nick was helping me kind of get in, it goes, let's start with a 9 degree before we get down into that 8 degree. And I was like, okay, well, we'll end up there anyways, but I want to let you showcase the product because I don't know anything really about it yet. And we hit that window right away. And for me, that was like the big telltale sign. If you can go up in loft and maintain spin, now you're finding a window where you're going to carry it further and you're going to get a little bit more roll. And that for me was why I saw such a big win with that one.
It's funny you mentioned that because I was talking to Eric Cole, now the PGA Tour Rookie of the Year, and he was saying the exact same thing as you. And we talk about like what are the like intangibles that you need in a driver, and having consistent spin on your go-to shot where you're not going to get too much and it's going to sap distance. It's going to kind of float up on you. We've all seen that driver where it just kind of tails up a little bit at the very top of the apex instead of kind of boring through the wind. That's such an important shot to have, but it all comes down to spin. So to be able to see that, I'm sure was a massive win for you. All right, let's get into the fairway woods. Driver, we know what you saw. Go-to shot fade, lower spin. But what about the fairway woods? What was it about the Black Ops that really impressed you?
Unlike the driver, there is only one line of fairway woods as well as hybrid. So there is just the Black Ops fairway woods. The thing that I found, and again, I've used in the past, the Gen 6, like the lower lofted versions of certain fairway woods and the more like what we quote unquote call the players line versus the XF line. And what they've been able to do with multi-material, just like with the driver, with carbon on the crown and on the sole, they don't have carbon on the sole of the fairway wood. But using carbon on the crown, very strong carbon that allows them to save a lot of mass. The MOI or the forgiveness on the fairway woods is almost identical to the XF while still being lower spin. And that's kind of that, that's what you're looking for when you're trying to put these two things together, these two factors. And to be able to hit something off the deck with, again, normally I've used the PXGs in the past. I use the 2-wood. As the 3-wood, I use the 2-wood, which is the 13 degree, and I would loft it down even just because I would like to see that bullet 3-wood fly. I'm not really concerned too much with carry distance with that golf club, just for my own personal game. But again, same thing. Up in loft, just clicked open a couple degrees, and I saw higher launch with less spin. And that to me was probably one of the most impressive elements of that, because for me, a 3-wood is designed to go as far as possible and really push it. I'm not trying to carry water and get to a par 5. That's not my game. So if I can just get it to go as far as possible and run, that's a huge advantage for me. And I saw that while, again, seeing higher flight. If I can know that I can carry it a certain distance off the deck, that is where I really am going to utilize a 3-wood the most. And then I saw that kind of same thing with the 5-wood as well. And I just, again, clicked it open, and I really like that. It's a little bit more compact than the previous generation, but it still offered that forgiveness. And same thing as well, new face material allowed it to, I mean, it's kind of the intangible, but they do feel really good as well, which I think is, we always talk look, sound, feel. It's always the kind of buzzwords that do kind of factor into how a golf club performs, but they do feel different. And that feel, which is caused by the material change, saw an actual numbers difference. And that's what I care about. I care about the numbers. I saw it on the launch monitor, and that for me is where I know that it's a winning product.
Yeah, I know the goal of going through a fitting is to find the club for you, but when we have the opportunity to see everything, I know I've watched you test before. You like to test it all. Did you test all the different models in the Fairway lineup, or did they just kind of zero you in on that one, and that was the one model that you tested?
So they only do have that one model. So I did, as far as the 5-wood is concerned, I did go in to try test the hybrid as well. So again, one model of hybrid, just the Black Ops hybrid, and they've really squared them up again. They what PXG does with their woods is pretty interesting, because a lot of them get a little bit more rounded on the toe. They like to keep them more square, and that does a couple things. One is it helps the golf club look a little bit more open. It shows more face, so it's pretty confidence inspiring from address. But it also allows the face to flex because it's a little bigger rather than kind of pinching down more. And I found with the hybrid, kind of similar to like the Tour One driver, was really hit down on it. It wouldn't spin too much. And, we found in testing that a lot of hybrids don't really spin that much now anyways, but to be able to hit down and see a really good ball flight and have that deeper face where you can feel like you can get down on it. I think a lot of better players, if you look at shallow faced hybrids, it's like, yeah, they're great. But like, if I'm trying to hit one out of the rough, or I'm using it as like quote unquote, a get out of jail free club, a shallow face, if you hit it high on the face, you're pooched. There's no other way to put it. Like, it's going to come out really high. It's going to come out really soft. It's not going to have any ball speed. And I found that with, speaking of testing and kind of nerding out a little bit, I like to find the bad lies with the hybrids and the kind of the 5-wood to really see if you can dig it out of there. And that for me is where that stood out when it comes to the hybrid. But being someone who actually in a weird way needs more spin in their longer clubs, less so with the driver, but with a 5-wood, I want it to go high and I want it to land softer. So that's why I ended up with the 5-wood instead. But I think for players that might be down on it a little bit more, there are a lot of options in that hybrid that are going to work for players.
I want to know, what was your biggest win from testing PXG's Black Ops?
Oh, it's like a 2600 spin fade. That to me was insane. We talked about the numbers a lot. To be able to see 270 roughly around that area of carry for me is like awesome. Like, that's my target. If I can get to that target every time, I'm a very, very happy golfer. And to be able to achieve it with a fade versus trying to like squeak out a draw or try to do something where I'm manipulating the golf club, for me, is something I don't want to have to do. And in some cases I do it to play a golf club that might be more forgiving or something. But with this golf club, the Tour one, I got enough forgiveness that I needed. It's a 460 club head, but it offers that low spin performance that I really liked. It offered some stability, and then being able to go out and use it, and got to play 9 holes quickly that afternoon with that driver. I was like, yeah, I really like this thing. I like to be able to aim down the left side of the fairway and just swing as hard as I can and just watch it kind of cut and just be pretty happy with that ball.
Do you see the driver making the bag?
Right now, it's and I'll be very frank about it. It is the number one driver to beat right now for me in my golf bag because of that low spin fade. That's the hardest thing. It's the hardest shot for me to hit. And I really liked how it performed and how it felt. So, people can call me on it if they see me on the golf course. I'm not using it. But right now, that would be the one that, it's January. I'm not going out and playing anytime soon. But if you see me, it's probably the driver that's going to be in my bag right now.
It's high praise from RB. RB, thanks for taking us through PXG's new Black Ops line.
Hey, glad to talk about it. It was a fun experience, and it's an exciting series of clubs.